Okay, I am Jeannie Cash,
And
and I
I'm
am with George.
Manthe from Lead Learner Associates. We've been consulting with Vanke Meisha Academy for about the last 3 years. And we realized that they have an incredible story to tell that we would like to have them share with you. They're in Shenzhen, China, which is right close to Hong Kong. And they're a relatively new, I think 4 years old, 5 years old, high school. They're a boarding school. And their mission is to prepare students to be global leaders. Most of their students are hoping to attend colleges in the West. They have a combination of Chinese and Western faculty. I think they try to keep it about 50-50 percentage-wise, so that the students are actually ready when they graduate to attend colleges. They've had great success getting their students into some wonderful colleges here in the US and in Europe and in Canada. And they're growing also. Since they've opened, they've started a middle school and a school for the arts.
Okay, so today we're talking with the VMA principal, Wang He, and she has several members of her team with us. We have Marianne, Sabrina, Nick, and Rafat. Would you just very quickly tell us what your position is with VMA? Marianne, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm the Dean of Academic Affairs for VMA High School.
Okay, Sabrina?
Hi, everybody. I am Sabrina, and I am the Director of Teaching and Learning at the high school.
Okay, Nick?
Hi everyone, my name is Nick Tan, and I'm the Associate Director for the Education Technology Office.
And Rafat?
Hi everybody, I'm Rifat, and I'm the Mathematics Department Chair and Instructional Coach at VMA.
Okay, and Principal, would you like to say hello?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Wang He. You can call me Ada. I'm the principal of Shenzhen Vanke Meisha Academy, and this is my team.
Okay. And Principal Wang He has a very special connection to George and I, but to all of our educators in California. She's a doctoral student at USC. And this past summer in June, we invited her to come to UCLA, and she spent a week, we call it Principal's Boot Camp because you're in class morning, noon, and night. And so she spent the time at UCLA with the other principals that were there. And then George and I are with Lead Learner Associates, and we arranged for her to come to California to do a very short internship with two outstanding California high schools this past fall. And I think she very much enjoyed that experience.
Yes.
We'll give you a little bit of context for VMA and who they are. And correct me if I say something wrong, but I think I've got this pretty close to right. VMA was on their extended New Year's holiday when the order came down to close and to, if they were going to reopen as a online distance learning school. Their faculty was scattered literally all over the world. In fact, I think Wang He told us that there are 46 of their teachers who are still haven't been able to come back to China. So they're teaching from, I think, 3 continents. They've pulled this off. 4 continents.
Yeah.
So some of them are now wishing, China's starting to be a safer place to be than it was. I noticed our numbers for the coronavirus we have twice as many cases as you had in China here in the US. So there's people that are wishing they were back in Shenzhen, but they're not allowed back in, or they have to be quarantined if they do come back. So we think it's a miracle that no faculty, staff member, or student at VMA caught the virus. So that's a blessing for all of us.
And when Principal Wang Ha reported to us that they had been doing online learning since February 10th, and that after the first 2 weeks, it's been a pretty smooth transition. And we realized that all of the people that are here with us in this meeting have learned some valuable lessons. There's been so many questions that have been popping up all over the internet and with social media about how educators here in the US can navigate these tumultuous times. So we're very grateful for this VMA team that's here with us, and they're going to share their knowledge with us. Hopefully, as we ask questions and they respond to those, that it'll be helpful to our educational community here in California.
So where to begin? We're thinking that maybe a good spot to begin was just what in the world was going through your minds as you learned your students weren't coming back after the holiday, your faculty wasn't coming back, you were going to not be a boarding school, but you were going to be a online school so that students could continue their education. What were you thinking about when that happened?
Who wants
I
to
was
start?
thinking that we would be prepared because our team was so good. We already had a pilot online course. I was really happy that our principal, Wang He, could foresee the future and allowed us to get an online course up and ready. And so we actually started an online course in the fall semester. And we had challenges with that course, with connectivity to engagement, all the things that everybody is feeling. But because we had gone through some of the pains of trying something new, and we're coming out of it okay, I thought that we had the necessary ingredients to actually do this well. So I had faith in our tech people and especially our teachers, and I thought with Wang He leading us through this, we would be fine.
And I know one of the things I was thinking about is the fact that because we are such a diverse group of people, that we come with so many different pieces that can really work. So many of us have worked in an online system in one way or another, wherever we were in the world, whether it be at university, high school, or even lower. So we were able to bring those experiences, what worked well, what didn't work well, what technology has worked, what technology hasn't worked. And this is a little different for China because of the thing that sometimes technology works in America that doesn't work in China. So we always have to be aware of that, because some great LMSs that are available in America aren't necessarily available here. So we always have to keep an ear to the ground of the newest trends for China alone.
Can I jump in next?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta be honest, when Sabrina messaged me on the 23rd, I think it was like right during Chinese New Year, prior to Chinese New Year, a day before, I was about to head out on a plane to Chengdu, and I had to scrap all of that because I suddenly I knew that something was going on, but I wasn't sure what. And then when Sabrina messaged me, she asked me, Nick, I think we need to do a backup plan. And we need to get started like now. And I was like, this is the 1 week before. There's still 1 more week to go on the break, like, could we maybe plan it a bit later? But then I realized, oh, hang on, something's going on. And we might not be going back to school for maybe a week or two. That's what I thought initially. I'm not sure whether you guys felt the same thing. I thought maybe 1-2 weeks it might be a virus and it might pass over or something. But when we got that message, I think the first thing that kicked in was like, should we create a full-on plan in terms of the technology that we have to use? Because I don't think we were prepared for, in the sense of the connectivity issues that would have occurred during that time. And I think we definitely had a roadblock for the first 2 weeks, knowing that suddenly 1 billion people in China would be online at the same time. So my team had to figure out, you know, in terms of broadband connectivity, would there be issues? We had to test it with a lot of different people. And so that was our first thing that kind of kicked in for us. Yeah.
And really going off of what he said, it's through the combined efforts of everybody realizing we need a plan, we need agreements, we need all of these steps to protect the students, to make sure they're getting the education they deserve, to make sure our teachers are safe where they're at, but also still being able to deliver exceptional lessons at any time of the day, really, to all of our students. And so it's that idea of we were constantly in communication. It didn't matter where we were in the world. I know Marianne, being in America, has completely had to flip her days just for the simple fact that she's working on China time. And that's anywhere between 12 to 15 hours different from where you're at. And so with teachers in 4 different continents, as well as students, because remember, it wasn't just our teachers that traveled, our students did as well. So we had to be really cognizant of that and be flexible, because things came up. Flexibility is so important. You have to have a backup for the backup, because without that flexibility, then where do you go? So you have to have, okay, if this doesn't work, here's our secondary. If that doesn't work, here's this. So it was a multifaceted plan that had lots of parts to it that we found, this doesn't work, we're going to move to the next step. But it's that constant communication, and we use a platform called Ding Talk for our communication. And it is a Chinese platform that it's just like messaging. So it's a social networking work platform that you can stay in constant contact with everybody. And it also allows the ability for voice conferencing and video conferencing. So that has been a great tool for us to stay in touch no matter where we are in the world.
We know that teachers have different skill levels when it comes to technology. So can you address that? How were you able to build the capacity of teachers so that all of them could be successful? How did you have to do quick training for them?
Yeah, Nick, you can speak first and then I'll speak after you. I think that's a question that you should answer first.
Okay. I'll get the ball rolling. So essentially what happened was, during the first week, I think we actually kicked off with our Cambridge program. And so they were in the test trial mode for the first week before we got the other teachers on board. So anything that we had to do was tested on them first. So we had a 1 week full on everyday training continuously to check if they knew how to use the video conferencing modes, the live streaming modes, collecting documentation. So all of this was done on the one platform, DingTalk, as well as PowerSchool on the side, because while saying all of that, like, we really wanted everyone to use PowerSchool to be able to capture all the documents and the gradebook and reports for that. So while we were doing those two, we tested that out for a week. And after that, basically, we rolled it out to all the other teachers. So I think at the end of the first week, we knew what would be the problems that other teachers would face. So we were able to better equip them. I did a lot of one-to-one time, to be honest, like with every teacher. And I think it really, it's not about whether a teacher is great at technology. I think it's just about familiarizing themselves with the technology that we have available. Because there's a lot of features in each of the technologies that we use, and they're going to have to play around with it. So it was just a trial and error thing for them to get to know what they really need to use for their classes. All right,
Rafat?
Rafat.
Yeah, so I think on my side, I remember in the first week when I was in South Africa at the time, and I know that they just issued this whole virus thing as an epidemic, and I know my mom didn't want me to leave, and my wife's parents was worried about the babies. They wanted the babies to stay in South Africa, and for me and my wife to come back, if anything. But I mean, I knew I had to be back. I came back with my family so that we could get this online teaching platform lifted off of the ground as smoothly as possible. I mean, I know as a few days after I landed and I heard everything, all of this information coming in about teaching online, I remember asking Nick to please train me one-on-one on how to use these features so that I could train my teachers. I think that was key to our success. The fact that Nick made one-on-one time with everyone who required it without complaining. So I take my hat off to you for that one. I think he had to do the same session over and over and over, probably a million times, to make sure that everybody was on board. So that was definitely a key factor in our success. Training was probably the most essential thing, and making students and teachers aware of the expectations. You know, that was also important. What are the teachers' expectations in terms of teaching online, and also what are the students' expectations? Everybody was emailed these expectations after thorough discussions in frequent meetings, and also laying down the rules and consequences for breaking those rules as well for both teachers and students. That was important. So by the time we laid the foundation, everybody was on par. I mean, once we did our first week of teaching online, I mean, all that anxiety that everybody was feeling, I mean, quickly simmered down, because I mean, I had teachers in my department who haven't ever taught online, at least. And for them, this was probably the most anxious thing they were probably going through in their life at that point in time. But after getting used to it, we soon saw the power in teaching online as well, and how we can integrate this to teaching physically at school. You know, like like teaching online and teaching at school, combining the two just uplifts education at VMA on another level. So yeah, we also, I mean, the surveys that ETO sent out to the teachers and students as well, finding out what's wrong, sorting those problems out from the get-go, allowed for a much smoother process over time. So these problems that we were experiencing at the start, I mean, we did have problems, but it was sorted out quickly, like in no time, because it was identified, the problems were sorted out, it was communicated, and everybody felt comfortable. So communication, like Sabrina was saying, flexibility, adaptability, and obviously training, and just that constant reassurance that ETO, especially Nick, gave us. You know, it's gonna be okay. If you have a problem, this is the person you go to. If maybe this one can help you. And all the teachers that had experience teaching online were more than willing to give their input and help and support to others that had no experience. So I know it was a team effort. And I think that was the key to our success at the end of the day.
Can you tell us a little bit about, give us an example of some of the expectations you had for teachers?
So for example, the teachers were informed like how often they were required to meet with their students. So like we usually have 3 classes with each section. So for instance, I teach AP Calculus BC. On a normal schedule, I would have 2 80-minute classes with my students and 1 45-minute class. So the expectation now was to have at least 1 80-minute class. So everybody knew, okay, that's what we have to do in the least. More is okay, but everybody started off teaching 1 class, and as they became more comfortable, they started teaching more. So that was fine. The students were informed about the same thing. And then homework expectations, how much homework we were allowed to give our students. That was also key, because I mean, if everybody was just handing out homework to students in every class, they were going to be bombarded with all of this information and overwhelmed and not knowing left from right or up from down, you know. So that was also a key factor as far as expectations go. Amongst other things were the consequences for students not attending class. We have a 1/5 policy at school. We all had to agree on how we would accommodate students in other parts of the world if they couldn't attend, you know, so we had to basically relax the way we enforce that rule as well. Our rules for students handing in assignments late, how would we deal with that? How would we award points for participation? All of those things were things we had to discuss and iron out before actually teaching online. And that was a critical point, because if we had to start teaching without speaking about all of those little things, I don't think we would have been as successful as we were. And that took a lot of meeting time, discussions, going back and forth as to what would work for us, what wouldn't. I mean, surveys, constant surveys, getting data, analyzing that data, and making sure that the decisions we made was sound enough for both teacher and student. And I think that actually relaxed the amount of anxiety that we were feeling. I mean, teachers and students, because we knew the rules, we knew the expectations. And anything by the time we started teaching, anything that we forgot to mention, eventually within the first week or two was spoken about. And after 2 weeks of teaching online, we had all the rules laid out. And it was just a matter of going through this process and correcting the stuff that we had on paper, making things better, relaxing things a little bit. So yeah, I think that was definitely a factor that played a big role in our success to online teaching.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, what was it like for you as principal while all this was happening?
Yeah, Wayne just thank you, Rifat. So Rifat just mentioned about the communication, the expectation, the surveys, and we made minor adjustment little by little, but we figure out the whole plan before all things really go online. I saw everyone was nodding, nodding like this. That's the key factor. Actually, is very, very important, because we need to understand people have this anxiety, and if we have those communication there, so everyone know what is going on and what will happen. So we list those expectations, and we communicate with different. Actually, it's a larger part. So first of all is school admin. So we have a core academic team, right? And we have department chairs, and we have teaching faculty, and we have different offices, directors, and within every office. So what's going on in student life, right? What's the expectation of student attendance? What's the consequence of that? And how to check whether the students are safe, are healthy. We get data every day. So how those data get reported, to different offices and to the government, to the Education Bureau. And we have we need to communicate with students, because they don't know what's going on, when we can go back to school. So we made the communication very, very clear, the expectations. So we actually hold the expectation. We don't want the students and the parents to think, okay, so we're going to have the full class. We cannot do that. We need to test that little bit later, just like my colleague said. Starting from very small parts, the Cambridge program, starting from 80 minutes only, the expectation, and then maybe 160 minutes. And if some courses, some classes, they want more, they can have more. But we cannot start as a full, the full picture, the full track is running. We cannot do that. We need to start it small. And we need to communicate with the parents, because parents will feel anxiety. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what their kids are learning. They only see their kids sitting in front of the computer, and they feel like, oh my God, and checking their phones constantly. What are they doing? So we communicate with the parents, let them understand. And after that, we can see parents, they were there watching, the online class. Sometimes they were there participating. And we send weekly communication letter to faculty, we have some shout outs. Usually it's drafted by Marianne. We have some shout outs for teachers, for the admin, for the whole school. And we have some notifications, what's going on? What are you going to do next week? And in next 2 weeks. And we have weekly communication letter to all the students and another letter with all the parents. So the communication, the planning, the communication is very, very important. And it's a really a teamwork. So as a principal, I would say at first I was panic. I felt lucky because we have a ETO, we have a education technology office in place already, and we have a teaching and learning center. We have Sabrina, we have Rifat, we have so many good, colleagues, wonderful colleagues. We're lucky, really lucky, but I feel panic because we have never done that. But later on, I talked to my team and we were there like, okay, so maybe it's going to be like a 1 month thing. What are we going to do? Let's start to plan as a 1 month thing. But in the process, we find out maybe it will be 2 months. So I ask questions. Are we going to change our plan? Are we going to add time? People said no, because it's not ready. Our teachers, they're still, and the a lot of anxiety. So we need to hold. Okay, so let's slow down. So firstly, we ask every department chair, they report, what's going on in the department every day. And then we said, oh, it's too much for people. So, okay, let's do it once a week. Because we know from the survey, students have very positive feedback about, the online teaching and learning. So let's slow down. Department chair only report that once a week. So we make small changes along the way. And the communication, work as a team. You have, like you can talk to people. We use DingTalk to do the, how to say that? Immediate communication. I don't know. I think you have a word for that, but
messaging or something.
Yeah, we can communicate very, very quickly. So yeah, communication and make changes, make small changes along the way. Do not make dramatic changes. Yeah, people need time to be, getting used to the whole thing. They need to be more familiar with everything. Hold the expectations, start with small things and make it a little bigger. Hold everyone's expectation. Don't be panic, or don't be, have a big hope about everything. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Great.
Tell us how you're measuring and tracking student progress. You've talked about the classes and taking it a little slower and starting small and building on that. And you've talked about parents' involvement and how are you measuring and tracking student progress?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because my department chairs just finished their summary report for the month of March. And included in that report are the benchmark tests, the unit tests. And so we continue to keep in place the bi-monthly checks that we do with grades, tracking the students, making sure, again, that the students are not slipping through the cracks. So we have a process where the teacher will go ahead and notify the department chair of the plan for any at-risk students. Then the department chair shares that with me, and I share that with John, our Dean of Student Services. And together we follow up with those students and the parents to find out what's really going on with the kids. Because again, one of the things we have to be aware of is this is a totally different learning platform. So where some kids have really risen to the challenge and they're comfortable and they love this, there are other students who thrive on the classroom situation. And so they started to pull back and not attend or not turn in homework. So we had to stay on top of those grades and those kids. And initially we were doing it weekly, then we were doing our bi-monthly checks. And then the department summaries that just came in, we just did an analysis on the benchmark exams to see if the kids are still in line. Are we on track for pacing? You know, we were prepped and ready for those AP exams before they got canceled. We were on track. And I think that was key, is because our online program, one of the things I've seen in the United States, even in my own town here in Utah, is they only have online for the kids from 9 to 11 each day. We kept our same schedule. So the kids still were getting, either through online or through additional assignments, they were staying on track. So it was easy for us to track the progress and to make sure the students were still meeting the standards and keeping on track with the pacing. So I think that accountability piece still needed to be in place, and that's what we kept.
So what's it like for a student? What's a day of school like now for a student?
Students we still have the same schedule. Students will have their classes just normal. They don't have evening self-study, so they do the self-study on their own. But we still have the same schedule. So I have 2 students right now. My children are involved in the online platform. My one daughter right now has class, and it's 10:30 at night for us in Utah. She has class. So no matter where the students are, we stay to the schedule. So they will get online, they'll check in with their teacher, they'll do the activities and discussions and debates and have regular classes. And then the teachers will actually follow up one-on-one with students. I know Sabrina can even talk more to this because she's teaching an AP Lang class. And this was because one of our teachers wasn't able to continue that class. And so she had to pick that up midstream. So I think she and Rafat can talk more about how it's like from day to day for the students.
Well, and I can also talk not only as teacher, but parent as well, because I do have a child in the online system as well. So I'm just like Marianne, where we've kind of got that dual hat going on. But as the teacher, so class runs as normal. I'm with my AP class, I have 160 minutes a week. And with my normal classes, I also teach English 2 honors. I have 80 minutes a week. So my students, I let them have control of when they want to have the lessons and how they want to have the lessons. And the first couple of weeks, we split that 80 minutes for my English 2 honors. And so we would meet, so period 1 meets on Monday and Wednesday. So we would meet Monday and Wednesday for 40 minutes each. And they would have all kinds of other activities that we would be doing that I've had to alter and adjust to be more online. But I have found ways for them to do group discussions and group projects and different collaborative activities. It's a lot of work on the teacher's part. So if you're going to do something like that, you do have to be prepared. And if you're going to do it on an online platform, you have to be prepared to have 10 different chats going at once. So you have to be able to multitask and communicate with everybody. In my AP classroom, as Marianne said, I came in midstream. So I came in at the end of February. And we were still up in the air about what's going on with the AP. How is it going to run? Are we going to have the test? So we still had so many things unanswered. And so we were having 2 80-minute periods. I meet those students on Monday and Wednesday. So we would meet from 2 o'clock to 3:20, both of those days. And we would do a variety of different activities. And I have another colleague that teaches period 2. So we would do an activity like they would have essays that they've written in their classes, and we would trade period essays. So period 2 would be giving feedback and peer reviewing and marking to the AP rubric for my students. And period 4 would be doing the same for the period 2 students. So they're still meeting and doing activities as normal. They do have outside classwork. One of the things that Mac, the other English teacher, and I have started, we're doing what's called digital humanities. So we actually will record a lesson. We've seen that they're weak in identifying tone. And so we'll record a lesson on tone identification and drop it into the group chat. And it's up to the student to be responsible for watching that. And that's where that extra 40 minutes comes into play, is through that digital humanities. So we're actually getting to our 200 minutes through dropping in different videos. But what's great about this is you save the videos and you now have teaching tools for the future. So everything that you're doing now with moving online, you have a working class for the future that you just tweak and adapt based on what your students need, based on how curriculum changes, based on how you grow as an educator, and you see what works and doesn't work. So it is a lot of work up front, but it's something that's so beneficial because of the fact that you are still in constant contact with your students and doing everything as normal. And so that's more of the teacher side. The student side, my child gets up, sits at the dining room table in their pajamas, brushes their hair very quickly, and joins their class. But they're sitting there, they're interacting with their peers, they're talking to their teacher, they're doing the different activities. The teacher will say, okay, go to your groups. And so they go to their groups for the 20-minute discussion and activity. Okay, we're coming back, come back to the group discussion, or let's watch this video and analyze it, because Eli's in literature and film. And so it's been a very interesting thing to be able to see some amazing lessons that my colleagues are doing. And we've even heard of parents joining in on like the PE lessons and stuff like that. So as a parent, it's really opened my eyes to what happens in the classroom. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of our students and parents right now.
All right, if you could, go ahead, George.
Yeah,
I
just
was
to
just
add
gonna
to
say-
that.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, no, you go first. You go first. It's fine.
No, I was going to ask another question. You fill in as a
Okay.
teacher.
So,
We'd love to have you share.
yeah, so I mean, to speak about like managing students' progress over time, I teach AP Calculus BC, which is our flagship course in the mathematics department and also the hardest one. So for me as a teacher, I was really, really worried about finishing the content. I mean, at school, we were already pressed for time in finishing the content for BC. So it's like now you have 80 minutes a week. You're teaching online. How am I going to finish all of this content? So it took a lot of planning, more planning than it would take at school, So there's definitely more prep time involved when teaching online to ensure that the 80 minutes you have or the time that you have with your students is used in the best possible way. So for my AP kids, constant check-ins. As soon as my class is over, I send each of them a message asking them for their feedback. So not only the feedback that was sent to them through the survey that ETO put together, but I would ask them for my own individual feedback. And my students, I ask them, and I have a good relationship with them, to be honest. Tell me if you think it was a bad lesson, if there was too much talking, if you wanted more questions, less lecture, stuff like that. I would ask them specific things, and they would open up to me and tell me what they wanted. So over time, we worked on a plan together, my students and myself, and we found a way forward to finish the curriculum. And I don't know how, through an act of God, we have maybe 1 or 2 weeks left, and then I'll be done with the syllabus for BC, which was something I didn't even think was possible. But it goes hand in hand. The students and the teachers need to work together. And again, it's that open line of communication, having an open door policy with the kids. If they have a question, to ask, to be understanding of the fact that they are just as anxious as you are. So that helped a lot. The other challenge that I had was I teach financial mathematics, which is a college level course, and which has only grade 12 and grade 13 students. And at this time of the year, all they're thinking about is college, sleeping, parties, not school, not work, not anything. So for me, a big challenge there was to make my lessons interesting enough to encourage my grade 12 and grade 13 students to attend class. So that was a challenge for me on another level. So for AP Calculus, it was like finishing the content, giving the students what they want, motivating them, keeping them up to date with what's happening with the syllabus and whatever, and making sure that I eased their anxiety about finishing the syllabus. And for the financial math kids, it was motivating them to come to class. So also constant check-ins, asking the students, you know, what would you like to learn today? Would you like to learn more about this, more about A, more about apples, more about oranges, or whatever? I would give them what they wanted, and that really helped a lot. So constant check-ins, daily feedback, being consistent with homework. What I do is I issue homework at the beginning of the week, and then it is due the next week. So that's the system I followed. So the students wouldn't get more than one homework piece per week. So they had enough time to ask me questions. They didn't feel the anxiety. And, you know, once we got into the flow of things and we had the system in place, it was very easy to follow. And I made minor changes along the way in my class, just as we do as a school, but nothing major, nothing that made the students feel anxious or feel like there's more pressure or more load on their shoulders. So yeah, monitoring their progress, not only using homework and tests and stuff like that, but also on a personal level, checking in with them and seeing how they are doing emotionally as well. I mean, I had students who didn't attend class. I didn't immediately mark them absent. I would, after class, I would contact them, ask them, you know, are you okay? What's happening? Some of them were honest and said, hey, I overslept, right? Others would say, you know, I was having connectivity issues and whatever. And I would say, you know, it's fine. Watch the recording. If you have any questions, let me know. And just having that open line of communication with them and that understanding and flexibility, you know, and being more understanding than usual really helped
their stress.
Yes, it helped relieve their stress. And that actually indirectly motivated them to attend class because they knew that you weren't, like in my class specifically, that they weren't just numbers, you know, student number 5 or 7. They actually had names. I made them feel like included in everything that I did, every decision that I made. Like if I was having a test, I would ask them, you know, I need to have a test. Can you tell me which day would be most convenient for you? And then based on that, we would make those decisions together. So that really helped a lot.
That's really valuable advice. If each of you could just give one tip or one piece of wise counsel to an educational leader who is trying to get this process going, what would you advise them? What would you say? Rafit?
I would tell them to look for the hidden talents in their staff. One of the things that I saw through this whole situation is teachers that were quiet, that I didn't even know they had the talents they did, especially in online learning and educational technology. They really came through with flying colors. So I think we just have to just, again, help to look for those hidden talents in our staff and give them an opportunity to show those talents, to share, and to take on a leadership role.
Sabrina?
I would say, remember that it's, yes, you're wanting those end goals, but also remember they are human, they are people. Their mental health is just as important as getting to that end goal. And they're in a time of uncertainty. Be flexible, be understanding. Remember, you're human just like them. Be open and communicate that. So it's that idea of mental health is so important at this time, along with their learning.
Nick, is there something that you would like to share?
I'll go along the lines of Sabrina and to add that, you know, when we're trying to think of how to design this online learning, it's best to do it small and to grow it big later. So test it out first, because everything is unknown at the moment. There's so many uncertainties. So the best thing to do is to test things out small, do it for a week, review, reflect, and then revise. I think that's the way to go for this period of time with so much uncertainties.
Rafat?
Yeah, for me, I think it's training, support, having that flexible and adaptable mindset, as Sabrina mentioned already, and just being open, you know, and more understanding. Um, I agree totally with Mary Ann. Those hidden talents are extremely important. People who have experience, reach out to them as a leader. You know, it's all about working together as a team at the end of the day and having an open mindset. But I think the training and support is essential to ensure the smooth lifting off of this program that you're trying to build.
And Principal Wang He, what would you say?
You're muted. You have to unmute yourself. I did it. You probably, there you go.
Yeah. So I would say work as a team, support each other, communication, listen and communicate clearly about expectations. So when everyone on the same page, they know, okay, this is a timely goal. So we're going to work as a team from different sides, from ETO technology, from ASO, you know, from academic, from student wellness center, department chair, all the office, they can work together and come up with a plan and communicate that plan with admin, with teachers, with students, and with parents, so that everyone on the same page, and then get information, get survey, get data about how it is, you know, and then make small changes once at a time. And then you know, maybe it will take you like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you will have a much better, you know, understanding and the program.
Can I ask one small question? Maybe Nick, you're the right one to answer this. When you say you teach, I know people are going to be wondering, when you say you're teaching your teachers are teaching online, are they using a platform like Zoom? Like
yeah,
this?
we don't use Zoom at our school right now because we have Ding Talk.
Okay.
The thing about Ding Talk is because you can instant message people on the side, so you don't full screen the camera mode most of the time, which allows you to do 2 things simultaneously. I think for students, they're a little more used to that. I do find that teachers will find it a bit overwhelming at first. Right. But after a while, once you get to that familiarity, it just kind of like becomes a norm for you, because you know that you need to upload stuff and you need to send stuff over to students while they're taking your class. So you kind of want something a bit more flexible.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Is there something we didn't ask that you'd like to share with educators here in the United States?
Well, I'm really proud of the fact that we've been at it so long that we're ready for midterm exams, and that we are progressing just as planned with our midterm exams, because we found an online tool that we can use, and we are adapting the tool for the midterm exams. So I think one thing I'd like to tell all the leadership in America is it can be done. And just like Nick said, start small. Try things out first in a small group, learn from the challenges that you have, and then roll it out at a larger scale. And that's what we did with the testing program as well. So I'm really proud of our staff, because we are able to continue to get through midterm exams and again, you know, do something that even AP isn't doing right now, which is to just move forward.
Right, thank you. And when you reopen, George and I are anxious to come back and visit.
Yay.
All right.
We are anxious to
Looking forward to it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
This will be very beneficial.